Hi, this is Ram from CrossMind Studio and welcome to the third chapter of Animated Content Creation series. And today we are going to talk a bit about Animatic, and some may refer this as pre-visualization as well. So having a proof of concept is a good idea. It gives you much more clarity, but it's still a still image, and it's not enough when we are dealing with animation and motion pictures. So when making animations other than visuals, there are a lot more things that go into perfecting the illusion that you see on the set, such as the sound, the camera work, editing, and many more things that will come together in the perfect sync. So to be able to visualize all that working together at a very early stage of the production is very crucial, and for that an animatic is used as a mock-up of the entire sequence. Now I'm sure most of you who are here are already aware of what storyboarding is. So basically storyboard is an early pre-visualization of your entire film, in which boards of rough sketches or pictures are used and organized in sequence according to the script that you have. Other than the illustrations, storyboard also include detailed description about the camera, voiceover, transitions, etc. in written caption. Now, much like storyboard, Animatic is a pre-visualization tool as well that comes after the storyboard. But at this stage, images from the storyboard are synced with the sound and played in a sequence rather than displaying in the board. Also, a lot more in-betweens are added into the shots to make the action look more readable and detailed. These were very simple examples from my past projects. Now here's another interesting example, and this one is from the Blizzard. Okay, it's not from my projects, it's just I found this online, and I'm not going to play the entire video but just a few seconds for your reference that what Animatic is capable of for a very large scale production. As you can see how the Animatic is used for high-end cinematics over here, and you can also see all the details are laid out perfectly. And if you have seen the actual trailer of this game and watch the final cinematic, you will see how accurate these animatics are. They are a very crucial step for any project that includes animation and live action. So having such level of clarity about how your final sequence will look like at this early stage of production really enables you to make critical decisions. Whenever you're making animated commercial or live action short film, Animatic will help ensure a solid finished product. Now for Animatic, several different techniques can be used. You can take storyboard panels and manipulate the original drawings and illustrations to make more in-betweens and sync them with the sound. Now over here you can see Animatic that I had made in the Photoshop. Basically what I did was I took the panels from the storyboard and I manipulated the few layers and added more in-betweens. So all the camera angles and all the transitions that you see are basically drawn from the visualization. So it's not like there was any camera in the Photoshop. Okay, so what I often do is I keep the background drawing on a different layer and characters separately and make multiple groups of each frame. And then if I want to create some illusion of the camera movement, I can always move the background and the foreground layers according to the need of the shot. If you are going for a visually heavy animatic, like a painted, very detailed painted animatic, then Photoshop or Krita are very useful, and after that you can export those layers into some compositing software and make use of a camera. You can also mix them with some compositing effects to add some secondary details such as motion blur, depth of field, etc. Now I would suggest that you watch a few animatics. I'm sure if you Google or YouTube search for behind the scenes of any VFX heavy movie or AAA title game cinematics process, you will be able to find an animatic. Okay, now for my recent projects I've been practicing to use grease pencil for making animatics. I'm quite new to this, but I think this gives me everything that I need for making great animatics very quickly. Now grease pencil is perfectly capable of making high-end 2D animations as well, and the setup that is provided is very clean and efficient. I can draw from scratch, I can lay out everything in 3D space, 2D space, which is more accurate and useful for the later layout production. and I can also use 3D geometry along with the 2D sketches to quickly draft my scene. Since we are using Blender for this project, I'm going to use grease pencil to make an animatic for this. This will also help us later for blocking the scene, okay? Now, before I start this, I know a lot of people on the channel have expressed their struggles about the sketching. Now please keep in mind, it's important to understand the process. It's okay if you can't sketch it, if you're sketching slow, or if you are tracing from a reference. But what's important is to understanding the process, and practice will make everything better slowly. So just stick to the process and don't worry about perfecting your sketches. You can always find visual references. You can always take help of 3D mannequins or 3D camera angles to make your drawings better. Okay, so all that is okay for now. You may find your best technique or style later, but it's important to know the process so that you can organize and plan well. Okay, now first I thought of skipping this chapter because we are dealing with a rather simple scene, but then I realized it will totally break the hierarchy of this entire series. So even though my scene is very small and simple, some of you might be planning to make short film, and for that Animatic will be very useful. And now there are few things that you need to keep in mind and you might find useful when making an animatic. And the first thing is having a clear visual about the set that you're dealing with. Okay, so a movie or short film is made of multiple scenes, and each of these scenes are shot or animated within one set. So let's say if your animated scene is about one person having coffee in a cafe, so the cafe is your set and you need to be aware of the layout of the set. So let's say this is our cafe, and we have a counter over here, we have counter over here, we have gate over here, then there are few windows, and there are few people over here, and then there are few tables, and maybe there could be a counter where there's a little queue. What this will do is when you are making one animatic, if you have the perfect idea about the set you are dealing with, then it will be easy for you to figure out the camera. Now let's say if we are creating a shot where the person is entering the cafe, so this is the gate. Okay, so let's say for entrance shot our camera is somewhere over here. Okay, and our person walks in over here. So our view will be something like, what we have is a person, and in the background we have the counter. Okay, and on the counter we might have another person, and we might see some part of the corner counter as well. Okay, and some part of the table. So this way you will be always clear about what to draw and what to connect over here. Now let's say if the next shot is about this person goes to the counter over here, then let's say if you decide to shoot this camera angle, then what you will see is, let's say if there is a window over here, then our second shot will be something like, on the right side we have the counter, and the person walks in from here. Okay, and in the background we have transparent glass or the window, and we might be able to see some red light or the street or bicycle moving, if you have some ideas over here. Okay, and let's say if the third scene is about that person is sitting on the table over here. Now what you will have in this camera is you will have this view. Okay, and in this view what we will have is we have the main table, and then we have a part of the background table, and also we have the side counter, and our main character is sitting over here. Maybe checking out the cell phone, and in the background we will see the counter and all that stuff. Okay, so having a idea about what kind of the set you are dealing with will give you much more clear image of what needs to be drawn in the animatic, in the background, and all of your shots will connect well together. If the location, if you draw any random stuff in the background, then the shots will not connect, like the camera will not follow properly. Okay, so having very clearly well planned layout will give you much more clear idea and basically easier work. And this is not just about animatic, but it will also help you organizing your layouts, and you can also clear out some clutter that is interfering with your shots and the cameras, and find the perfect balance of what makes your shot better. Okay, one more thing you can do is you can always start with thumbnails. Okay, instead of directly approaching the animatic, you can always start with these kind of thumbnails. And what you can do is basically keeping in mind the set, you can create a very few basic drawings and clear out all the clutter information that you are not clear of, and then after that take those thumbnails forward and make the final drawings on top of them. This way you will be having a much more clear information for the actual animatic, and you won't waste your time into creating some detailed frames for things that were not working out. Okay, and third thing is you can use mannequins or 3D tools for visualizing your shot. So let's say if I want to make a shot of this cafe. Okay, so what I can do is I can quickly make few tables and place them like this. Okay, and also make a counter over here and counter over here. What this will do is when you create one camera, and you can use this as a reference drawing. Okay, let's say these were round tables. Now I have much more clear reference. And obviously we need a floor, so having a very simple blocky geometry for your scene will help you quickly come over the initial hurdle. Now this is not necessary, this is only useful if you are dealing with complex shots and where the camera angle is really something that you are not able to figure out. Okay, so you can always take a help from the 3D, and I can draw on top of this. Okay, let's say if my character was sitting on this table, then I can place my character over here, checking out the phone, and if the counter was somewhere over here, I think I made some mistake, and there are secondary characters over here and some are sitting over here, and this is our main character. You can also blur out these, so you can make use of these helpful tools. You can also use mannequins in 3D and quickly pose some complex poses and draw on top of that. So all that is perfectly okay, and I'm sure you will find your best techniques as you start practicing all this. And there are many more ways of achieving a great animatic. Once you start your search, I'm sure you'll find great techniques and more tools which will help you ease this process. Okay, and also the most important thing about animatic is having a sound, and even if it's not the final sound, it's always better to have some sound which is still work in progress and use that along with the animatic. So these are a few things that you need to keep in mind and before starting an animatic, and these will be very helpful for you. And now let's begin with the actual scene and start creating our animatic. Alright, so let's jump to the blenders and get to know the grease pencil that we will be dealing with to create today's animatic. Okay, so this is what you see when you open the blender by default. Now if I go to the new file menu and create a new file and choose a 2D animation preset over here, now this will give me a different kind of interface that is more suitable for the 2D animation. Okay, now you might think a lot has changed over here, but it's a very basic stuff. I'll just explain with a new file over here. If I change my background color to the white from here, and let's go to the front view, and now if I press Ctrl Alt 0, now that will align my camera to the front view. Okay, now select the camera and move it up a bit on the grid, and now let's delete this cube and bring one blank grease pencil object and go to the draw mode. Now just like how we have different modes for editing the geometry and vertex paint, etc., similarly when we have grease pencil object selected in the outliner, that will give us a draw mode. So when you are in this draw mode, you will be able to draw. Okay, I hope you can see this very light stroke over here. Now if I go to the active tool properties, this will show me the brush settings because we are in the draw mode. if I go to the object mode, that will disappear. So make sure you are in draw mode to access all these brush parameters. And also the timeline will change to the dope sheet, and in the dope sheet you will get grease pencil. Alright, so when I draw something, that will automatically create a one key over here. And also in the material, you can create a new material, and let's say if I call this one grass and change this color to something like green. Alright, and now let's create one more material and call this mountain, and let's change this to some earthy color or something like some brownish tone. Okay, let's delete this grease pencil object. We'll have to be in the object mode for that. So to make a new grease pencil object, you will have to press Shift A, just like how we create a 3D geometry, and press and select your grease pencil, and the most useful one is the blank. Okay, this will give you, the monkey will give you a 2D version of the Suzanne that is famous in the face of the blender. And sorry, let's go to the solid, and the stroke will give you one stroke. Okay, now let's create one blank, and let's draw something and go to the draw mode and draw something like this, and select the grass material that we created. Okay, right now the strength of the stroke was set to 60% or something. That's why you can't see this very clearly. So all the brush settings are on the top of the shelf. Okay, so from here you can adjust the radius. Let's say if I want it to be some thicker strokes, so all that setting, if you're coming from 2D softwares like a Photoshop or TV Paint or something, then I'm sure you will find these parameters pretty common. Now if I press T, now the toolbar has also changed to the grease pencil toolbar. Now over here we have a draw, fill bucket, erase tool, tint tool. So eraser works just like how eraser is supposed to work, and that will basically remove your strokes. Okay, now let's select the brush, and over here we have few more advanced parameters. Let's say randomize. Okay, if I increase the pressure and jitter, now what will happen is when I draw one stroke, even though I'm drawing a perfect stroke like smooth one, it's giving me some jitter in the stroke. This is a very useful one when you're drawing something very organic. So let's say if I increase this slightly more and change my material to mountain, then within few stroke I can create some very organic looking shapes which are good for mountain. Okay, all right, so one more parameter which I find very useful over here, that is stabilize stroke. Let me just get the eraser. You can either erase this, or you can also delete the entire object from here and create a new one. That is totally up to you. We were talking about the stabilize stroke. Now without this, if I try to draw some stroke, okay, so you will see some jitter. Okay, even though it looks smooth, it still has some jitter. Okay, let's say if my hand is shaky, or if I'm pretty new to drawing or something like that. Okay, and if I want some if I'm tracing something, okay, let's say if I have an artwork underneath and if I'm tracing, okay, then when you draw slowly, then usually you have this shake in the stroke. Okay, that doesn't look clean. So if you're cleaning up something, then you can use stabilize stroke. Now what this will do is it will create a string that will follow, and that is basically a delayed stroke which is calculated way after your actual stroke, and it will reduce all that small jitter in the pen pressure or mouse movement, and it will create a smoother stroke. So this is a very useful one. All right, and from here you can control more parameters, and I'm not going to go into every detail of this, and most of these are very self-explanatory. So input samples are like for the stroke. Let's say if I reduce this to 2, then my stroke will have let's say if I go to the edit mode, now my stroke will have less vertices. Okay, now if I go to the draw mode and change the input samples to something like 10, okay, 10 is the max I think, then in the draw mode, if I draw a stroke, and in the edit mode it should have more vertices, And you can also access your materials from here as well. So let's say if you're working with a different kind of workspace, so you will have access to most of the parameters on top of the shelf. Okay. All right, now let's talk about how to animate in Grease Pencil. So I'll just go to the object mode and delete this one and bring one blank stroke again and select some dark stroke material. All right. Now if I go to the draw mode, you'll see on the timeline I have nothing, no keyframes. Okay. Now if I select, if I draw something, and that will create one keyframe. Okay. Now if I go to a different frame and draw something else, then that will automatically erase the previous drawing and create a new one. And I'm sure there must be some way to keep the previous drawing as well. I think that is from if I press I key. Okay, duplicate active keyframe. So when you press I for keyframe, just like how you press I for 3D animation, okay, to insert the keyframe, you will get these different parameters, whether you want blank stroke or whether you want to make a duplicate of the previous stroke. So shift I, and if I press I and duplicate active stroke, then even if I draw a new drawing, that will not disappear. Okay, now let's draw a new frame. So you can just press arrow keys to move forward in the timeline. So I'll try and not get carried away with this. Often I get complaints that I get carried away when animating and waste a lot of time. So yeah, that's about it. Okay, I'll just keep it this way. And let's say very weird animation over here, but I hope you get the point. So basically that's the difference in 3D and 2D. So in 3D you will be bound to transform the very same object that you have started with. Let's say if you had one cube over here, then on each frame, on the main keyframes, you will be manipulating the same cube. But that restriction doesn't work in 2D. Whatever you imagine, you don't need a rig or anything for that. You can basically, if you are good with drawing or anatomy, draw and animate anything with a very simple workflow. It's easier said than done, but it comes with a practice, but it's very fun. Okay, 2D animation is my favorite. So this is one of the way to animate stuff. Okay, now if I delete this one, I'll have to go to the object mode. Okay, let's not delete this one. Let's bring one blank and call this one grass. Let's select the grass material and go to the draw mode and create the randomize stroke. All right, now over here I'll create a grass. All right, I can reduce the jitter more. Okay, so we have a grass strand, some leaf looking thing. Okay, now the other way of animating this, if you go to the edit mode, now even if I don't draw a new frame, let's disable this drop of the water. Okay, the other way is if I go to the edit mode, I can manipulate these vertices. Now you can see as soon as let me delete this word. As soon as I shift any of these vertices or make any changes, we'll have one more keyframe. Okay, and that means some changes have happened in this frame. Okay, so over here you can see, so if I enable the soft selection tool and select any vertices, and let's say if I want to rotate this one, all right, let's change the pivot point to 3D cursor and make it something like this. So you will have animation. So you will create different keyframes for each time you edit an object in the timeline. Okay. Okay, I hope this gives you some idea how to animate the same object, but there are different modes over here, and just like how you go to the edit mode of a mesh object, you get vertices, edges and component, different kind of modes. Similarly, you can press 1 over here to select the vertices. You can select the 2 for selecting the entire edge. Okay, and you can also combine these two animations. Let's say if at frame 0 I have this. Okay, and now if I draw one, go to the draw mode and select blue. Okay, sorry, I'll have to select assign a new material and change this to blue. Okay, now the new drawings that I make will be in the blue color. All right, so let's go to a different frame. All right, so now let's say if we want to see the previous frame over here and like as a reference for where to draw, then you can enable the onion skin. And if I go to the viewer over here, over in the material editor, now let's go to the object data properties, and this will give you grease pencil object data properties. Okay, now if I click over here, and this is onion skin, and these are grease pencil layers, and you can create more layers over here instead of drawing everything on the one layer. All right, so let's create one, let's enable the onion skin. And now what will happen is if I enable the onion skin over here as well in the viewport display, you will be able to see the frame that is after that frame and the one frame that is before that frame. Okay, this way it's much easier to draw when you have the reference, okay, of the previous frame, or if you want to clean up something. Okay, so this was our drop of the water, and I'll draw one over here, and I'll draw one over here. Okay, I'm just forcing it now. Let's draw over here, something like this. Okay, nothing, not trying to perfect anything, just giving an example. All right, so you can use onion skin, and there are very common parameters like locking your layer and adjustments, relation, I don't know, stroke thickness. So I don't want to get into all these details for now, and I just want to keep it very basic for today's purpose, but I'm sure we will discuss all the details in the future grease pencil dedicated tutorial. Okay, so now let's jump to the final scene and create the animatic. Alright, so I'm into a new file and I'll start drawing my scene. Okay, so what you can do is press go to the object mode, let's bring one grease pencil and blank. Okay, let's call this skull. Okay, and now let's go to the draw mode and make one skull. I'll choose a different material which is solid dark color, and let's say if we have something like this. Okay, alright, go to the object mode and bring one more blank grease pencil object, and let's say if I call skull 2. Alright, and now I can draw a different kind of shape for this. And choose the same material. Alright, so this way you can draw multiple grease pencil objects, and you can make a duplicate of them and arrange them however you want. And let's say if okay, for now our scene have 4 different elements. One is the skull, one is the bottle, one is the ground, and one is the smoke. Okay, smoke, grass and all. Let's say 4 or 5. Okay, so I can make one patch of the grass, and I can call this grass. And now let's create a new material and call this grass as well. Just like before, make it green, and let's start drawing some grass. Alright, something like this. Go to the object mode and now what you can do is wherever you need a grass strand, you can basically duplicate this one. I'll disable the object outline so that we can outline selected. Yeah, so this way you can populate your scene basically. Alright, I'm just doing a very rough job right now. I'll get to the final one in a moment. So you can have few variations of the grass. Let's say if I bring one more grass, go to the draw mode, and let's draw a different kind of grass. So it's easy to populate like this. I mean, you can draw a few versions of the skull, like one is looking on the left, one is looking on the right, and one is a bit different shape. So 4 or 5 variations you can have, and you can start then after that you can basically start placing your drawing wherever you want. Okay, and so this is not how we are going to work today. Okay, what we'll do today is I'll delete all of these and bring one reference image. Let's bring one image reference, the one we created in the previous chapter. So I just want to make sure that we have good drawings for the animatic. So we have this nice looking drawing from the previous chapter. All right, and what I can do is disable the lock, enable the lock, and decrease the opacity of this one. All right, and now let's bring one grease pencil blank object and call this skull foreground 1. So I'm going to trace this patch over here. So if I okay, this is the difference. If I had started with the grease pencil itself, then I wouldn't have to draw this again. If this concept art was made with the grease pencil, that would have been very easy. I mean, I could have used the very same drawing for the grease pencil. So that is something to keep in mind. But in my case, I was introduced to grease pencil much later, and this is a very old project. That's okay, it's not going to be much of a difficult. So let's go to the draw mode and select solid. All right, now we can start drawing this patch. I'm using a graphic tablet, so it's much easier to draw strokes, and it's a much natural posture if you want to draw. But that is not absolute necessity over here. If you're not using a tablet, then what you can do is instead of drawing like this, you can select this stroke, and what this does is it will let you place stroke like this, and after that you can basically trace it like this and press E to extrude it. This is also a very nice way of drawing a clean thing. Okay, so I'll trace this one. I'll do a very quick job. I hope you guys get an idea what I'm trying to do over here. So what I'll do is I'll group the objects based on the depth and the placement. So over here, these 3 skulls can be one grease pencil object because these are placed on the quite similar depth. After that, I can combine these 5 into one grease pencil object, another grease pencil blank object, and call this skull midground 1. Okay, select the dark strokes and start drawing. So we can draw this like this. Make one more grease pencil, call these one side skulls, something like this. So I hope you get an idea. Okay, I'm not going to trace everything for right now. I can bring one more grease pencil object and go to the front view, and let's go to the drawing mode, and we can draw our bottle. So I'm not going to actually draw everything. This is just for your reference. I have already prepared a file. So as you can see over here, if I disable the background canvas, I have these objects shaping up, and let's enable the object outline, which I can now these I can manipulate in 3D space and arrange them. It's much nice and organized way, and these will work perfectly with the camera. Okay. Alright, so over here I have already prepared a file and traced everything and assigned different materials, as you can see, If I go to the material editor, all the skull objects have this material called skull. So, and all the grass patches have a grass material, and the smoke have a smoke material, which is just a basic color. And then we have bottle. Okay, and I have organized all these different I could have grouped few of these together. Like over here you can see I have grouped these together because I thought I can use some more depth over here if I place them at different distance. So I broke them apart a few more. Okay, so that is totally up to you, your call, if you want to group all these foreground objects together, midground together, and background in one grease pencil object. Okay, now let's add some depth to this scene so we can work with the camera. Okay, right now everything is flat. Now what we can do is we can arrange them at different distance. If I enable the screencast key again, which is very annoying. Yeah, all right. Okay, so as you can see in the illustration suggests that these this is like slight hill. Camera starts from here and the shot will lead us somewhere over here, and these objects are much closer to the camera. These are somewhere in the middle, and this is the farthest object. Okay, so we'll have to create some depth into the scene. Now what I'll do is I can start moving these around into 3D space. I'll select these three, move them out, something like this. I'm moving them into Y space, and now I can select all these and move somewhere in the middle, and all of these together, push them into the background, something like this. Now you can see our scene have much more depth. Okay, now this is the call you will have to take, like what works best for your layout. So I'll just try to arrange them what is suitable for the scene which I have imagined. Okay, so let's go to the camera view and enable our lock camera to view. All right, so we can start somewhere over here and then zoom in and move along the hill and settle somewhere over here. So this looks good. So what I'll do is I'll select the camera, and at around 50 frames I'll create one key over here. Press I, lock road scale. Now for this I won't see key over here because we are into grease pencil. Now if I go to the dope sheet, I will be able to see key because it's a 3D object. Okay, the camera. Now let's go to the frame 350 and zoom in somewhere over here and set a key. Now let's play the animation and see what is going on, and I can make few more adjustments based on the camera, something like this. Place this over here. This place looks empty, so maybe I can bring few grass patches over here. Alright, something over here as well, and maybe I can duplicate one skull over here, make a copy of this. Let's select the camera, and over here I want to zoom in a bit so that it's like we are taking turn according to the slope of the hill. Zoom in a bit more. I can also set a key for this. Over here I want much more close-up view of the bottle. Okay, something like this. Alright, so yeah, basically this whole process is about tweaking according to what is the best suitable for your shot. So this more or less works fine. I'm just going to make few tweaks and get back to you, okay, with the final result. Alright, so here's the final camera which I found working well. So in the starting we have much more dense pile of skull, and then gradually it lifts up and we have a nice view of the bottle. Okay, so it's a very simple shot. Now what we can do is we can add some secondary animation into this, okay, just for the presentation purpose. It's not that we are trying to achieve anything complex over here. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll add some modifiers. Okay, let's say if we select this grass patch and apply one noise modifier, so you will have some motion, and you can also decrease the strength by position. All right, and you can also select more grass patches and select this one and press Ctrl L to transfer the modifiers. Okay, and similarly I can apply one noise modifier for the smoke and change the noise scale to something like this, some more waves. And similarly I can bring one noise modifier for the background smoke. Now we have some secondary motion going on over here, very suggestive, but it adds some life to your animatic. Okay, all right, now what we can do is animate this feather. Go to the edit mode and start changing the shape of this with the soft selection. All right, now let's disable the connected. Now over here on the frame number 5, I can change the shape of this something like this. Frame number 10 can have something like this. Frame number 15 can have basically a slight wavy motion for the feathers over here. Okay, I hope you guys are able to follow along. I hope I'm not going too fast. Let's shift D, yeah, something like this, and make a copy of this and make a in between. Okay, you can select all the keys and make duplicate and make it much longer animation. Okay, and also you can add noise modifier on this as well to add some secondary motion on top of your actual animation. Okay, similarly we can animate this thing over here. Let's go to the object mode and front view, and let's start animating into edit mode. All right, I'll place my 3D cursor over here somewhere, and so as you can see, all these tools together give you so much more control than how you basically create animatic with a digital painting software. Like if I was making something like this in Photoshop or Krita or something, then I will have very hard time managing the layers and all. So this is a much more convenient, and I'm sure I can get much better drawings and painted version of each of the object with grease pencil tools. And also you can loop this as well. Okay, now if I go to the camera view, you can see I have much more secondary stuff going on, and that adds more life to the entire scene. Okay, So it's much better than having a still illustration. And I hope this is not too rough, and hope all of this is making sense. I'm just trying to be as quick as possible and not drag this chapter with unnecessary details at this moment. Okay, so this is how it looks, the final animation. I mean the final animatic. Now one more thing, fun thing you can do is you can create multiple shots from this. Now let's say this is the main scene where we created everything. Okay, now let's start creating scenes from this layout itself. If I click over here and add a new scene and click on the full copy, and let's call this one main scene. Okay, so this is going to be our main scene. Now let's create a full copy again and call this one feather shot. Okay, now over here what we can do is we can bring one new camera. Let's bring one new camera, Control Alt 0, and align this to somewhere over here. Okay, now I'll have to change the camera to feather camera, which I've created. And over here you can see a long list. This is because I created multiple scenes a few times, and for some reason these cameras don't disappear from here even if I deleted those shots. So let me know in the comments if you have the solution for this. So select the camera for the feather camera, which we have created a new camera. Okay, but yeah, and you can basically create new keys over here, and I have already placed a camera previously, so that is what it's showing over here. So it has very slight animation, basically a simple pan from top to bottom, not revealing the entire scene or the bottle, just the introduction shot as you've seen in the trailer. And similarly, I created one more copy of the entire scene and make a full copy of this again. And I choose a different camera which I have in the scene, which is called skull thread camera. And over here you can see I have zoomed in somewhere over here. Okay, it's the same layout, and all the shots are working within the one shot, within the one set. Okay, so now we have all the three scenes. One is the main scene where so we'll start with this scene where we give a very slight hint of what is going on. Then we reveal the top of the bottle just to ease in the scene, and after that we have the main scene where we start with a pile of the skull and reveal the entire scene. So we have three scenes right now. Okay, so now what we can do is, and this is really interesting, now let's split this window and change the editor type to video sequencer. All right, and change this editor type to video sequencer as well. Okay, now over here we have sequencer. Now over here let's change this to preview. All right, now in this one let's click on the add and click on the scene. Now you'll see you have all the scenes over here. Okay, whatever scenes you have created in the viewport over here, all those scenes will be listed over here. So let's click on and align it over here. Now okay, we don't need this one right now. Now I'll click on add again and bring the feather shot and click add again, main scene. There you go. So yeah, and now we have the entire sequence for our animatic. Okay, we have the first shot, second shot and third shot, and we can sequence them within the Blender itself. Okay, so this is a really fun thing about Blender. I mean, you don't have to leave the Blender for such simple things and export the clips and all. You can preview everything over here. And now let's say if you still want to tweak something, all you have to do is go back to your 3D viewport, tweak something, and that will update your scene automatically, and that will also update in the sequencer. So you won't have to render out something and then go back to the editor and waste your time. Okay, so this is a very useful thing. So let's go back to the video sequencer again and make sure we are in preview. Or you can also change this to sequencer and preview. Okay, so on top of that, on the top side we have the preview, and at the bottom we have the layers, just like how we work in the other softwares like After Effects. Okay, so over here you'll have the preview of all the layers, and I'm sure there is much more you can do, like you can add the transitions or something like that. And I haven't really played much with the sequencer, but I'm sure there must be a few things which can help you detail this more. Okay, so I'm going to play the animatic and the final video side by side just for your reference. So over on the left I'll place the animatic, on the right we have the video. So as you can see how much we can figure out at the stage of animatic. You have all the clarity about how your final video is going to look like, how the final shots and the camera will be, your layout, and if the music is working fine, how everything looks, feels with the music. So seeing all that together definitely gives you much more clear picture of what you will be making in the 3D. If I hadn't made this animatic, I would be very uncertain about the entire thing until I had seen the final render. So this is why making a animatic is really important, and currently we are dealing with a much simpler scene, and it gets more crucial for more complex animation productions. So I hope you guys will find this useful when you're making your own 2D or 3D short films, and I hope this clears out your doubts about how to approach pre-production of the entire film. So that's about it for today, and I hope this gives you clarity about how to plan your boards and animatics and what all are the necessary steps. I'm sure I might have missed a few things. It's such a vast topic to discuss. Hopefully this will give you enough idea to get started with this. We will discuss more techniques about animatic in the future for sure. I love this subject very much. It's very powerful once you understand it, and gets really fun because you can basically see the entire mock-up of your film, and it's a really wonderful feeling, especially when you're making your own short film. And as you can see how our idea is slowly shaping up with each step that we're taking in this series, and we're getting closer to our final animation. Okay, so let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'm very interested in knowing what you guys are up to, what you're making, what your plans for your first animation or animated scene are. You guys can find us on the Instagram as well. You can find us with the InstaCrossMind, and you can share your work with us, and if you have any questions or doubts, you can let us know that as well. I try to answer as many questions as possible. I get a lot of requests, but I'll try my best. So I'll see you guys in the next chapter where we begin modeling the layout in the 3D, and hope to see you guys around. Good luck. See you in the next chapter, which is chapter number 4. Thank you, and don't forget to subscribe and like the video if you find this useful. Bye for now. See you.